Welcome to Splattergore. I am Chucky as always, even wearing my Pennywise t-shirt today. Because speaking of that, that's what I'm going to address first. Last week, the trailer dropped. Now, before I watch the trailer, I gotta give you my opinion. It scared me as a kid. It gave me this phobia of clowns. And it's always been a movie that's been hard for me to watch. I recently watched it again. I've read the book before. The pictures I saw of Pennywise, I hated. I thought it looked stupid and dumb. But then, I watched the trailer. And the trailer was creepy, scary, and they did with Pennywise what needed to be done. And give him more of a scary, intense, over-the-top look. And I love that. It made me excited for the movie. And to be quite honest, it looks very good. And it has aspects of the book. More than were at the miniseries from a long time ago. The look of Pennywise is good. The casting for all the members of the Losers Club is good. I didn't see Henry Bowers in there, but I loved having the classic scene of Georgie going sailing with the parasail down the gutter and going underneath. And they don't show much of Pennywise in the trailer until the very, very end. Now, yes, this was only a teaser, and the movie does not come out till September. But I really wanted to get the ball rolling on that, because that's really good news. What's really not good news is back in February, due to the fact that Rings bombed horribly, they canceled Friday the 13th. Now, granted, I hated what they were doing with Friday the 13th. I didn't want an origin story because I've never understood why it's so hard, me being a Jason fan, why it's so hard for them to just realize it's Friday the 13th. You don't need an origin, you don't need a backstory. Why not just make a straight up Jason movie? Set it in between, like, you could do it in between 5 and 6, or in between 3 and 4. You could do, like, you could do one in the universe that does not have to be in the nowadays. Keep it in the 80s where it was like booming. Jason Voorhees is such a beast. It just sucks because later on this year we're getting the Leatherface movie, which is another fucking prequel. But the Halloween one, I really think could be good, because you got John Carpenter back in the producer's chair, and Halloween, as much as I like Rob Zombie's movies, I love Devil's Rejects, I love House of 1,000 Corpses, 31 was good, Salem I could take or leave, but you really look at it, and he basically ruined Michael Myers. The first Halloween was okay, but when he did H2, it was so bad. It killed the mythology. It ruined Halloween. This is a way to get it back to form. Scary again. Creepy. More of stalker Michael. Not over the top, suicidal, crazy Michael Myers. But you really have a chance to do something special. And with Blumhouse getting behind this one, I really have good hopes for this movie. Because I think that one's going to be really good. I saw the trailer for Annabelle, and I wasn't too impressed. Well, I didn't like the first Annabelle either, and this one just seemed like, in the trailer you're giving too much away, and you're telling that Annabelle is like a deal with the devil thing, and I thought it was fucking stupid. But I'm not a supernatural horror fan. I don't like The Exorcist. Ouija I liked, and I liked Ouija 2. Conjuring, I haven't seen Conjuring 2 yet. Conjuring was okay, but I'm just not into that supernatural aspect in horror films. I like the down, gritty horror films that fuck with your head. Which is why I also found out they're rebooting Nightmare on Elm Street again. Now, one thing you could say about rebooting Nightmare on Elm Street is they know what not to do this time. Don't focus so much on the child molestation. Try and get some of the aspects that you had in the original films to really make it something special. Nightmare on Elm Street, there's stuff there for you to do things. But I'm not the biggest Freddy Krueger fan, so I could take it or leave it. Also, some news came out. Cult of Chucky, which will be the next one in the Child's Play franchise. I'm not a big fan of the Child's Play series, even though my nickname is Chucky. But my girlfriend is really good. Really loves all that weird Child's Play stuff. But the new one's supposed to be gory, and it's supposed to be more like Curse of Chucky, which is good, and it's supposed to be the end of the franchise. Which is good. It's ran its course. Might as well stop it there, just like we're getting another Hellraiser movie. Here's my problem with Hellraiser. The two key factors that make Hellraiser what Hellraiser is one, Clive Barker, who is one of the best horror writers I've ever read. Clive Barker has a great imagination and created Hellraiser in his book, The Hellbound Heart, and he directed the first one as the executive producer on the second and third one. The new one, though, there's no Pinhead, really. There's no Doug Bradley, who Doug Bradley is Pinhead. It's called Hellraiser Judgment. It's going to go to theaters, and it's going to be more about like these executioner Cenobite people. Which to me doesn't make sense and doesn't make me happy. The last Hellraiser they did, which was directed by Victor Salva, of Jeepers Creepers fame, was bad. Hellraiser Revelations was one of the worst in the series, and there's like 11 films, so that's saying something. So I don't understand why it's so hard to do this. But we'll see. I'll watch it when it comes out. But one thing I want to spend some time talking about is the Universal movie monsters. The cinematic universe they've been planning. Okay. Now this is a mix between horror and action, so we'll leave it at that. First off, Dracula Untold was supposed to be the first one to start this off, and people didn't like it. Okay. Victor Frankenstein was supposed to be one, and people didn't like it. And The Mummy's about to come out with Tom Cruise, and people are hesitant about it. So, let's do the facts. Now, first, I'm going to go back and let you know, Universal horror movies are what I grew up on. And they are so good. Like, horror movies today could learn a lot if the directors went back. Because people always go back to the 70s horror films or the 80s. But if you go to the 1920s, the 1930s, and the 40s horror films, or even like the 50s, when you look at movies like The Invisible Man, Frankenstein, The Wolf Man, Dracula, House of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, The Invisible Man Returns, the Mummy franchise, the Universal horror movies were amazing. And you could still go back and watch them, and you could still enjoy yourself watching them. Recently, I've gone back. A lot of this is because I have learned a lot from Cinemassacre. James Rolfe is very smart and very educated on the Universal movie monster, the black and white movies. So I really have become... I went back and rewatched Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, Dracula, The Invisible Man, The Wolf Man, all those Universal movie monsters. And the films are so good, they have a good atmosphere to them. Very creepy. But they don't get enough attention. And when they remake them, they make them fully action, and then they don't understand what to do. Like, I don't understand why Frankenstein is such a hard movie to make. Because even the Hammer films had their version of Frankenstein, their version of Dracula, and they were still good. But it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, the last good Frankenstein movie was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where Robert De Niro played the monster and Kenneth Branagh was Victor Frankenstein. Dracula, some people would say Bram Stoker's Dracula is a good movie, and I don't. Like, Interview with the Vampire was good, but it wasn't Dracula. Dracula is a character that I cherish, but the last really good Dracula that I liked was in Monster Squad. And to me, Monster Squad is a very overlooked movie with really cool characters, and it's like the Universal movie monsters done right in that movie, because you have the Mummy in there, you have the Gill-Man in there, you have the Wolfman, you have Frankenstein, you got Count Dracula in modern day. But I would like them to do Universal movie monsters, but set in back then, in the olden times, because the movies really appeal. You could even make them black and white, or you can make them color, and to make the colors pop more. Like, you could really, they own the rights to Universal movie monsters, so why not do almost the same look of Frankenstein and Dracula, but update the Mummy and update the Wolfman. The Gill-Man had a perfect look, so I would just keep him the way it was. The Wolfman, the Monster Squad look is the best look for him. And you could really emphasize on these characters, build stories. Look at the source material that you have to work with, which, if you look at the Frankenstein franchise, the Universal series is like 6-7 movies. Dracula, there's only like 3. There's Dracula's Daughter, there's Son of Dracula, and I think there's another one. Wolfman, there's only like 2 or 3. Well, you really could boost a lot into there if you actually talk about the Universal monsters and bring Van Helsing in, but have Van Helsing be a reoccurring character through all the movies, and that it can connect where Van Helsing is actually trying to take down the monsters. It's just, I've noticed that they really don't have a care and a desire. Like, they keep saying they're going to do it, and they won't do it. I think keeping it horror instead of, like, action superhero type thing would be really cool. But that's just my opinion on the Universal movie monsters. I love them. Big horror fan. And there's not a lot of horror movies, new ones I've been watching lately. So, there's not really a lot to go off of. So, as always, I will always see you next time here on Splattergore.